How is everyone doing? Welcome to Pucks and Brews. I'm pretty sure this is episode number 28 because I always forget to check right before we record. I am Mike Sparacino here alongside, once again, Liam, the Shellmaster Godimer. Liam, what's up?
I love it. Every single time we start an episode of Pucks and Brews and I'm with you, Shades, and you mentioned the Chell Master Godimer, it can't not bring a smile to my face. So thank you once again for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and this is episode number 28. So almost at 30. Almost at 30. Almost catching up to the last podcast, which nobody knew about. So anyway, so
The one that will not be mentioned.
yeah, hey, I still love that old gimmick that I had. Keep for each episode number, state a former Ranger with that number. So that was fun times. So a little bit of a crazy weekend that just passed. Alex Ovechkin hit 800 goals. The Jets and the Patriots lost in embarrassing fashions, two completely different ways. Spectacular. The Jets are still in a playoff spot, even though this is a hockey podcast. New York Jets are still okay. They're still in playoff contention, which I'll take it. After the last like 6 years, I will gladly take it. I got my cookie butter cold brew from Dunkin'. No, we're not sponsored. I just like their coffee. And yeah, I got also the literal ingredients to make chicken parmesan as a Secret Santa gift. So that was also pretty good.
What do you mean the literal ingredient? There are multiple ingredients in chicken
Chicken breast,
parmesan.
Parmesan cheese, ragu sauce.
Beautiful. I mean, you know what? I can't think of a better gift than that. Whoever
Oh,
one of your friends is receiving that.
it
You're gonna enjoy it. Just like the Rangers did at Vincent Trocek's grandma's house last night, or 2 nights ago, excuse me.
yeah, big Italian dinner. Man, if only I would have been there. Jeez.
You and me both.
Well, I mean, my mom made lasagna like 2 nights ago, so close enough, right?
Yeah, I'm living by myself now. I'm like frozen dinners and takeout. It's boring. I miss the home cooked meals. That's why I'm excited to go home for the holidays, among other reasons, of course, but home cooked meals, of course, being above them.
Yeah, that's always an underrated aspect of moving out of the house. Like you have to learn how to cook.
I know how to cook. It's just too lazy. And I think a lot of people fall into that. It's just like after a long days of work, do I wanna cook up chicken parmesan for an hour and a half? So we'll
That's
see.
why I always used to stick to pasta like almost every day, and then I kind of got away from it because I'm kind of tired of it. But yeah, I know how to make pancakes now, so I've expanded my repertoire by one item.
Shades, come on, man. Pancakes is literally just add water.
No, I make them from scratch.
Oh, you make it from scratch.
Yeah, they taste better.
Interesting. Yeah,
Then
I
again,
just
this
do.
could be, putting in your own work and then eating something you actually put some effort into. My, I might have a biased taste bud, but
Fair enough.
all right. So, where do you want to start?
Oh man, we can start anywhere. I mean, for me, Shades, we didn't get a chance to talk about New Jersey and their huge winning streak at the beginning of the season. And it's almost a tale of two half seasons, right? In the beginning, New Jersey rattled off a number of wins in a row, and now they're 3-5-2 in their last 10 games. They've undergone a 4-game slide here, and they're still fifth in the league, but as we know, that spot, for teams who are at tops of divisions or at top of the conference, it can slip rather easily. And they have 44 points, which is best for second in the Metropolitan Division. But Pittsburgh is creeping right back up on them. They've each played 32 games. Pittsburgh has 2 less points. The Rangers are there as well. They have 3 less points, although New Jersey has 2 games in hand. And don't count out the Islanders and don't count out the Capitals either. I know the Capitals had a really tough season so far up to this point, outside of Alexander Ovechkin. But the Islanders, they're definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with. And although they're not playing their best hockey right now, New Jersey's definitely got to keep an eye out behind them.
Yeah, and I actually, as you were saying that, I looked up the Devils' schedule, and they have not exactly had an easy schedule lately. They had the Islanders, the Rangers, the Stars, the Panthers, the Hurricanes, and they somehow lost to Nashville and Philly in that span too. So, yikes!
You know,
Five in a row lost. Five in a
what
row.
yeah, and what concerns me about those 4 losses that you mentioned, Shades, against the
Actually,
Stars.
excuse me, make that 6.
Yeah, most of those games were at home. That's what concerns me.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of the loss, of course, to the Rangers on Filipito's overtime goal at the Garden, the game against the Stars, the game against the Panthers, those were all at home. And I think the other two that you mentioned as well. So that's a little bit concerning. And, Shades, like I came on this podcast in the preseason predictions and I gave a lot of praise to the Devils, but I also said I could see this team undergoing a midseason coaching change and getting a little bit of different leadership. I don't think Lindy Ruff is necessarily the answer. And now I'm starting to think, because it's not about how you start, it's about how you rebound when you fall down. And the island, and the Devils are on a 4-game losing streak right now. And, I have a little bit of hope that they'll be able to dig themselves out of that hole. But if they don't, I think you got to point the finger at the coach. But again, it might be a little bit of a premature take for a team that's 21-9-2. But again, it can creep up on you in the NHL. It doesn't take long from a good season to turn into a mediocre one, even for a team that didn't have a lot of expectations like the Devils.
Yeah, I mean, just remember what happened to the Canucks a couple of years back. They won the first 4 games and then finished near the bottom of the league. So,
wasn't it the Buffalo Sabres who last year, a couple of years ago, didn't they have an elongated winning streak as well?
yeah, they had a pretty good start to the season a few seasons back.
So I feel like this happens a lot. But again, 21-9-2 is nothing to sneeze at it as well. So I do want to give the Devils, credit where it's due. And like you said, the schedule's been rough outside of, the games against Philadelphia. So.
Yeah, so speaking of, let's move to another Metro team, the Washington Capitals. Alex Ovechkin, congratulations on goal number 800. 1 behind Gordie Howe for 2nd all time. This is incredible to be witnessing as a fan.
It certainly is. And, I'm going to echo what you said, Shades. Alex Ovechkin, congratulations on 800 goals. Well deserved. And I think it's, it brings up a conversation, Shades, that Jackie Redmond brought up on NHL Network a couple of days ago. And it's something I had in the back of my mind, even going, before Ovechkin had reached that milestone. I think there's a realistic chance that Alex Ovechkin, by the time his career is over, could have 1,000 goals. I truly believe that. You need 4 50-goal seasons. And is he past the point where he's putting up 50-goal seasons? He's had them consistently in the last number of years. But, this season, it's a little bit slow, a lot of empty net goals, not getting a lot of even strength markers, so say what you will about, his impending decline or what may or may not happen in the next few years or so. But I think there's a realistic chance that not only can he break the record of 894 from Wayne Gretzky, but he can well surpass that and have 1,000 goals. And I think that would solidify himself into the conversation. I think Wayne Gretzky is the best player of all time, but I think if Alex Ovechkin has 1,000 goals, that's 106 more than the greatest player of all time had put up. So it opens up an interesting conversation. What do you think? Do you think Ovechkin could realistically hit 1,000 goals being where he is right now at his age?
I will say this. I personally have predicted that he will pass Gretzky, but 1,000, that's a long shot.
That's a long shot. Yeah. It's just, for me, it's longevity and it's consistency. And Alex Ovechkin is the epitome of both of those words. When was the last time Alex Ovechkin sustained a long-term injury and was out, for a long time and was not putting up points in that span?
How many games over the course of his career has he missed? 16?
Yeah, 16 games.
And a couple of those are suspensions.
Right. And
Stupid suspensions, but suspensions.
And looking back, at my point, it's a little bit foolish of me, to say that Alex Ovechkin, might not reach it, but I think he'll be there. I think he'll have 1,000 goals by the end of his career. I really do. But I think there is, it's understandable, for there to be trepidation in your mind that may not happen. But for right now, he's going to pass Gretzky, and we can be happy for him that he has moved up yet another step in that ladder. So congratulations, Ovi.
I will say this, though. If he didn't get robbed of an entire season, a second lockout shortened season, and 2 COVID shortened seasons. I would argue that he would already be at like 860 or 870. And if he was at that, I would say he would hit 1,000. But, shit happens.
Yep, shit does happen. And for Capitals fans, Shades, that's really the only beacon of light they've had this season. 17 wins in 34 games. They don't sit too far out of a playoff spot right now. They played a little bit of better hockey as of late. They're starting to get some of their injured veterans back. Tom Wilson on his way back. Nick Backstrom, I don't know the exact timetable on him. I believe they're supposed to get Dmitry Orlov as well. Darcy Kemper's played really well for them. So, I don't know. Capitals, they're hanging around. They might be sixth in the Metro, but they're hanging around.
Yeah, the last I heard on Backstrom was that he is skating in practice, I think.
That's incredible, because the last person to have hip surgery that he had was Ryan Kessler, back in the early 2010s, and he didn't make it back. So, and the players, before Kessler, didn't make it back either. So Backstrom makes it back on the ice. That's inspiring stuff. It's good to hear he's at practice. That's what you want to hear,
Yeah. And speaking of Metro teams, let's keep it rolling. Pittsburgh Penguins, they somehow find a way every year to go on some type of hot streak. And, well, I mean, this was funny in the preseason predictions. You were just like so dead set against the Penguins in the playoffs, kind of for laughing purposes, which I always appreciate. But
Yes.
I was just like, I couldn't put them out of a playoff spot because somehow every year they just somehow do it. And, well, they're on a hot streak right now. Tristan Jarry is playing well. And it's just like, when's this team going to slow down?
Well, one of the things I've learned over the last few years, and, my prediction in the preseason was half joke, half not joke. But over the last few years, I've realized that as long as you have 87, 71, and 58, they are going to be just fine. And is Malkin declining a little bit? Is he the player he once was, 5-6 years ago? No, he's not. But is he still elite? Absolutely. And are you going to win a lot of games in this league over an 82-game season when you have 2 number 1 centers and a number 1 defenseman and a pretty legit number 1 goalie, tremendous depth both in the forward group and the defensive core, and one of the best head coaches in the NHL in Mike Sullivan? So, I really shouldn't be surprised that Pittsburgh is here. I just really thought that years were going to take its toll, and especially after hearing that Chris Letang had suffered a stroke, and thank goodness he is okay. The second stroke he had suffered in his career. He is back on the ice incredibly. Again, like Backstrom, that's inspiring stuff, even to a different level. But all 3 of them are on the ice playing consistently excellent hockey. And that's why they are where they are right now. And they beat the Rangers last night in regulation, and that was impressive. Did the Rangers deserve to win that game? Probably. But you know what? When you have a goalie in Tristan Jarry who's able to steal those games you're not supposed to win, that's the mark of a good hockey team, and that's what Pittsburgh is. So, I'll tip my cap and give them credit where it's due. 19, 9-4, 42 points. They are right there at top of the Metro, like they've been ever since Sidney Crosby's come in the league.
And, well, now that you brought it up,
over.
yeah, now that you brought it up, let's talk about the Rangers and them just blowing a 7-game winning streak in a game where, in my opinion, they should have won. But this is one of those games last night that just pisses you off because they had complete control of the game until they didn't. It was like a flip switched. I forget. Somebody took a penalty. Malkin sniped one. A couple minutes. No. A couple minutes later, Blade then took a second penalty. Penguins scored again. And from, I want to say, the last 6 minutes of the second period was all Pittsburgh. And I mean, that was kind of all they needed to take control of the game, which, like I said, it's games like that just piss you off because Rangers had complete control and then they decided to just give everything to the Penguins. What are your thoughts?
And Shade, you couldn't say they didn't have their opportunities, right? And it's simple. I mean, Sammy Blais just coming off of the ACL injury, do I feel a little bit bad for him? Of course I do. He hasn't been able to get his legs back under him ever since he came back. But that doesn't mean he should be in the starting lineup. And I think Gerard Gallant should have realized that he had lightning in the bottle when he matched up Gauthier Brodzinski and who's the other forward on that line?
It wasn't Ryan
It's
Carpenter.
It wasn't, yeah, it wasn't Ryan Carpenter, but it wasn't Sammy Blais. And the Rangers, it was Kravtsov when Kravtsov wasn't in the top six, but the Rangers played a lot better because of it. So I think he needs to realize that Blais shouldn't be in that spot. And if he's not in the lineup, maybe that penalty isn't taken. Maybe Russ doesn't score on the power play, and then maybe the game is still tied. And I was able to watch all of the third period despite working yesterday. And yeah, the Rangers were in control of that third period, and it was one mistake, one giveaway, Crosby in on a breakaway, and Shesterkin was there, just beat him between the legs. That's Sidney Crosby for you. That's an outstanding move. And Shades, that no call on Zibanejad at the end of the third period was
Ugh.
absolutely atrocious. I mean, how many times are the referees going to bail out Brian Dumoulin against the Rangers? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
But
no, you should
that
have
was
seen
egregious.
me
That
and
was a bad
Brendan
one.
were not happy about that.
No, I was not happy about that either. I didn't necessarily think penalty shot. I believe there was a call the night prior, 2 nights ago. Very similar play. The game is slipping me right now, but it was called down for a penalty shot, and the fact that there was no penalty shot call, but no penalty at all, it's just horrible. But also with that said, the Rangers had their chances, and Tristan Jarry made a couple saves on some grade A chances in that final minute. That's all I want at the end of the day as a fan, right? You lose. Just give me some fight. Just show me that you're in it. And the Rangers were in it at the end. But I agree with you in the fact that, they let this one slip away. They had control of it in the first two. And
Yeah,
then they
no,
didn't.
especially not to get. I'm not going to blame the refs because I mean like you said, the Rangers had their chances and they hit like two other posts throughout the game. You got to finish your scoring chances. But the thing that just pissed me off even more about that non-call was how Fox got called earlier in the game for nothing.
Yep. And, again, it's that fine line, Shades. I don't want to blame the refs either. But, we watched that first round playoff series last year. And, the officials, it was much of the same of what we saw last night. Just odd no calls, when the Rangers were taken down or when the Rangers were penalized against. And for the Penguins, it just seems like, yeah, all the 50 ones were going their way. But again, I don't want to blame the refs, but it's a common pattern with the Penguins, and I think all hockey fans kind of understand that. But
Yeah. But anyway, there's been some suspensions. Jeff Skinner got suspended 3 games. My fantasy team suffered. Tomas Hertl got suspended a game. Was it Nick Jensen got suspended 2 games?
Capitals,
Yeah, or am I mixing up the player?
I'm not entirely sure.
This is what
It
happens
could
when you
be.
don't actively take notes throughout the week, people.
Yeah, there's nothing on Jensen at the moment, but I like him though. It's a good top six guy in the back end.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Should have made a note of this before actually like bringing it up, but that's my bad. So let's move on. I know you wanted to talk very much about 3 particular teams, and that is the Bruins, the Maple Leafs, and the Winnipeg Jets. All of which are, let's be honest, surprising right now. Boston, they started off insanely hot, and they're still doing very well. Winnipeg is near the top of their division, and I gave them no chance to make the playoffs because of the toxic locker room situation. And the Maple Leafs, I mean, what can you say about Mitch Marner? He's playing fantastic this season. You can start wherever you want. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Shades. I appreciate that. I'll just slide over Winnipeg just real quick. I also thought that there were significant locker room issues, and I didn't necessarily think Rick Bowness coming in would fix that. I underestimated Rick Bowness, and I forgot that he was a coach that in the 2020 shortened season, as crazy as that was, he led a Dallas Stars team that had zero expectations into that bubble and brought them to game 6 of the Stanley Cup Finals against what would become a juggernaut in the Tampa Bay Lightning that would go on to win back-to-back Stanley Cups. So he went in. And, I think sometimes we as fans or sometimes we outside of the NHL inner community underestimate how much of an impact a coach can have on a locker room. And Rick Bowness went into Winnipeg and he saw all those problems, whether it was Scheifele, whether it was Wheeler getting stripped of the captaincy, whether it was Pierre-Luc Dubois had, character issues, going back to Columbus. None of that existed. Instead, they have 21 wins in 32 games. They have 43 points. And Shades, I can't believe I'm sitting here on December 21st saying to you that the Winnipeg Jets could very well win the Central Division that has teams like the Colorado Avalanche, the St. Louis Blues that I predicted at the start of the year to win the Central, even the Dallas Stars, who are right up there with them with Jason Robertson and Miro Heiskanen and Niels Lundqvist and Jake Gottinger, so even Nashville as well. They've had a little bit of a tough start to the year, but this is no easy division, and Winnipeg being the team out on top right now alongside Dallas, two teams that I didn't expect to be where they're sitting, is flat out incredible. So that's just my take on them. Anything to add?
Two quick things. One, because you brought up the 2020 Dallas Stars, quick shout out to Anton Khudobin. We're not going home. That was honestly
where is he now? Is he in the end?
That's a good question. I can look that up real quick.
He's
I
got to
just
be in EA.
I just love that because that was just one of my favorite parts of that entire playoffs. To be honest with you.
That was.
And we all knew Tampa was winning that, but at the same time, it was just like that was cool.
It was fun.
He is in the AHL.
He's in the A, yeah.
Which that's unfortunate, but I can't say I'm all that shocked.
From a Stanley Cup playing goaltender in the final to the AHL, how quickly you can fall, how quickly you can rise as well. For players like Jordan Binnington, who was with Providence with the Bruins and then won the Stanley Cup with the Blues in the same season. But speaking of the Bruins, Shades, 25 wins in 31 games, an .839 winning percentage. I know I sat here in the preseason predictions and said that the Bruins were going to be an improved team. Maybe their ceiling was second, third in the Atlantic by season's end. Linus Ullmark is a Vezina candidate. Charlie McAvoy is a number one defenseman. He is up there in that elite crop among Fox, among Makar. David Krejci has come in, just as I said, and he has transformed the top six. Taylor Hall looks like the Taylor Hall that won the Hart Trophy candidate with the Devils. Patrice Bergeron has not slowed down. And might I add, Brad Marchand isn't having that great of a season. It's not like Marchand is absolutely carrying the Bruins right now. They're getting production all throughout the lineup. Jim Montgomery is fantastic. He didn't get his full time in Dallas, of course, with his personal issues. Comes back with a vengeance, overcomes that, and leads this team to only 4 regulation losses by Christmas. That's just absolutely outstanding stuff. Their goal differential is a plus 54. That's the best in the league, and it's not particularly close. In their last 10, they've maybe a little bit struggled in their last 10. They're 7-1-2 in their last 10, and I precursed that by saying they struggled. That's how good they've been. So, I do think they get knocked out in the first or second round of the playoffs, but as far as this regular season run for Boston, they deserve it. And they've been elite at home, too. What's their record at home? 17-0-2 at home. Nobody's beat them in regulation at TD Garden.
Oh, my God.
Nobody.
Dude, that's reminiscent of the 2014-15. No. The 2012-13 Blackhawks.
It is. And this is a Boston team who, this is how crazy this is. Winnipeg. Do you think Winnipeg had more expectations at the beginning of the year to make a run than Boston did? Knowing that Boston was going to not have Marchand at the beginning of the year, not have McAvoy, not knowing what they're going to get out of their stars, the expectations were low for this team. People around the NHL community had Toronto, Tampa Bay, Florida. Some people even had Ottawa. Did you have Ottawa ahead of Boston?
I had Ottawa.
Oh
my. I was flip-flopping between the both of them. But still, and here's a guy you didn't even mention in all that. Pasternak is having a fantastic season. Just mention him. Literally everything is clicking for them.
Everything that could go right has gone right for the Boston Bruins so far this season. And Marchand has 26 points in 23 games, 9 goals, 17 assists. So he's been good. More than the point per game. But Shades, and who was the last team that you want to talk about? Toronto.
Toronto. Right. We have to bring up Marner's 24 game point or 23, 23?
23.
23 game point streak, the Michael Jordan point streak. I mean, dude, he has been a legitimate Hart candidate so far this season with the way he's playing. And the sad part is he's not getting enough recognition for it. He's having a better season than Matthews, Ovechkin. I mean, okay, if I had to pick 3 Hart candidates right now, Mitch Marner, McDavid, and Jason Robertson. You could make an argument that there's some wiggle room there, and I would listen to it, but those are 3 guys that have been on fire right now. But, dude, the Maple Leafs, look at what their defense was on paper. You literally have Justin Hall playing first-line minutes and playing well, which was completely unexpected after we literally heard league-wide talk about how bad he was last year. Giordano is playing great. Matthews is good. They actually have they have a good top 6, but Marner is just carrying them because their bottom 6 stinks. And they've actually gotten goaltending better than expected. So they're surprised. I had them as a playoff spot team, but they're still surprising. You have anything to add to this?
I do disagree in one aspect of what you said, Shades. They have above average goaltending. Is that what you said? I think
they've been getting surprisingly good goaltending.
I think they have elite goaltending. I think that Matt Murray, his numbers. I mean, yes, I know that we're biased, right? Because we're Rangers fans, and we've only watched a 60-minute Maple Leaf game, probably when it was against the Rangers, and Matt Murray gave up, a litany of goals. But outside of that, Matt Murray's been outstanding, and Ilya Samsonov has been just as good. And that 1-2 tandem, a risky one by Kyle Dubas in the offseason, it's paying off. And I think there's just such overreaction in the NHL community. You just mentioned it, Shades, with Justin Hall, right? Going back to last year, he was on the trade block. Maple Leafs fans wanted nothing to do with him. Maple Leafs aren't sitting second in the Atlantic Division if they don't have him.
Yeah.
Right now, right? Everybody ripped apart Matt Murray, how terrible he was in Ottawa. Ilya Samsonov, he never lived up to the hype in Washington. His save percentage was this, his goals against average was that. They're not second in the Atlantic Division without them. So I just think the overreaction is just so extreme, and let these general managers do what they're paid to do. I know the results haven't been there for the Maple Leafs, but what's Kyle Dubas supposed to do? Go out on the ice and make sure Austin Matthews scores 4 times in Game 7 against the Lightning and they win in the first round? Like all he can do and all he can control is what he can control in the roster that he puts together. And the roster that Kyle Dubas has put together has led them to having a better record than the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have won 2 out of the last 3 Stanley Cups, the Florida Panthers, who won the President's Trophy last year, and right up there alongside the Boston Bruins, who haven't lost at home in regulation. So you got to give Kyle Dubas credit. And as far as Hart Trophy candidates, I think Mitch Marner is up there, but I think you forgot somebody, and he's also in the Atlantic Division. Tage Thompson,
right?
52 points, 26 goals for Tage Thompson. But
the only reason I did not bring him up is because the Sabres are most likely going to miss the playoffs.
That's fair. But I still think look, they're still above 500, 34 points. They sit how many points out of a playoff spot right now?
Currently 4.
4 points out of a playoff spot. So they're there. But in his age 25 season, 26 goals, 24 assists, 50 points, not 52, excuse me. He's a plus 12, and that's in 32 games. But yeah, man, I mean, just incredible. What a season this has been.
Yeah, I have a topic for Tage Thompson, but that's for next episode.
Next time.
That is for next episode, because I think it would just fit better next episode. So yeah, the Maple Leafs, you're right. Surprisingly elite goaltending. I will correct myself because I said surprisingly good. When you disagreed with me on that, I was like, what did I get wrong?
I wasn't really disagreeing with you.
You were just enhancing it.
I was enhancing the point you were already making. Yes, precisely.
That's why I bring you on the show.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Of course, thank you for having me. It's great to be here always. Yeah, man. I think we have to talk about your Senators too, man. You know,
Don't even get me started. Dude, I swear to God, I had such high hopes for this team. Now, okay, they get half to a quarter of a pass because Norris has been out majority of the season and Stutzler's been out for seemingly like 2, 3 weeks now, even though it's probably only been like a week and a half.
but
That's their
Shades,
top two centers.
I hate to tell you though, they were piss poor before they got injured.
I agree with you.
Although I think Stutzla has had a good season,
Yes.
don't get me wrong. And Norris has been out since when? Like the first couple weeks of the year, right? He got injured very early on.
Yeah,
I
I'm
love
actually
Norris.
going to like as we're talking right now, I'm gonna look up his actual games played on the season.
And Norris is he's a power play sniper. He's a guy that's going to live in that right circle on the man advantage for years to come for Ottawa. I really like him, and I'm really happy they locked him up for 8 years this past offseason. But yeah, Shades, 14 wins in
Oh my
32
God.
games.
Dude,
Not
he's
good
only
enough.
played 5 games this season.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Jeez.
maybe if Norris is there more consistently or, has played, more than half the games like Stutzla did, maybe the record looks a little bit better. But it's surprising because I really thought they had a lot of their holes filled. I didn't have them
Yeah.
making the playoffs. I had them as a fringe wild card team. I liked Talbot, I liked the young pieces coming in. And Shades, I said it to you before the podcast started in our little pregame, I guess you could call it without the drinking.
Well, I mean,
Some
I have coffee.
Yeah, I have nothing. Hands. I just said, young players coming into the NHL, we can say we love Jacob Bernard Docker, and we can love Shane Pinto, we can love Jake Sanderson, and they're fantastic young prospects. They're not going to come in and they're not going to be number ones, and they're not going to transform either your forward core or your defensive core right away. And that's what we've seen.
Yes. So to continue our Canadian discussion, our Canadian team's discussion, I know you wanted to bring up the Calgary Flames.
I do. And the Calgary Flames, again, a tale of two seasons, much like I was talking about earlier. I mean, 15 wins in 33 games, you're losing, more than half your games. And this is a team that I really expected to make a significant jump, this season. Of course, they trade away Matthew Tkachuk. Of course, they trade away Jonathan Huberdeau as well. They bring in Nazem Kadri. They bring in Jonathan Huberdeau. Wait, they traded away. They bring in Jonathan Huberdeau. Excuse me. They bring in Nazem Kadri as well. And the results just really are not showing. Jacob Markstrom had a really good year last year. He was a Vezina Trophy candidate. Daryl Sutter, I'm not entirely sure if he was nominated for the Jack Adams Award, but I think he should have been. And it just hasn't worked out at all. And of course, first halves of the season, it can change after the All-Star break. An elongated winning streak can really change the trajectory. But for me, fifth in the Pacific, losing more than half your games, 36 points. If the Pacific just wasn't so damn mediocre, they would be well out of the playoffs right now. But because Seattle and Edmonton are occupying the 3 and 4 spots, and Edmonton has 36 points, the same as Calgary, there's an opportunity there if they can turn things around. But I'm just not seeing any hope that that's going to happen, to be frank. So.
No, you can throw Calgary on the list of just teams that have utterly disappointed this season. And it's really a shame because you and I were both praising that Matthew Tkachuk trade for them.
And Jonathan Huberdeau really hasn't been Jonathan Huberdeau in Calgary. And I understand, it takes time going to a new market. I mean, Florida to Calgary, I mean, couldn't be switching it up anymore. But he has 5 goals, 17 assists for 22 points in 30 games.
Yeesh.
I'm not entirely, again, like we were talking about with the Maple Leafs, I don't really watch, a lot of Calgary Flames games consistently, but I'm looking at Mackenzie Weegar as well. He's only got 7 assists in 32 games, like Nazem Kadri as well. I know Kadri had a good start to the season, but, where is he at this point? He's 13 goals, 13 assists, 26 points for 33, for 26 points in 33 games. That's just not the production that Matthew Tkachuk was giving the Flames,
Mm.
And now I don't really think the trade has worked out for either team, and I think that's a stunner. Florida has been worse than they were last year, and Calgary didn't take that step forward that many expected them to before the start of the season. So very surprising. When do you see that two superstar players getting traded for each other and both teams disappointing at the start of the year? Doesn't happen a lot.
I can reference a trade where both two big name players got traded, and in the long term, it hasn't worked out for either team. Subban for Weber.
Can I predict it? Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, right on. And
Yeah.
Weber, of course, going on LTIR, his career ending. And Subban, yeah, I mean, Subban helped Nashville to a Stanley Cup final appearance in 2017, I guess.
And then Weber did the same for Montreal.
And then Weber did the same for Montreal. That's right.
And now both teams just no.
Yep. Now both teams are struggling.
Yeah. So to pretty much end our full team conversation for the Canadian teams portion of the podcast, the Vancouver Canucks. I forgot who said it a couple of weeks back. It might have been Nick Kyprios, but I can't say for sure because I just don't remember. Someone said that the Vancouver Canucks are literally the epitome of a middling team. They're never terrible enough to get like a top 3 pick because they always get screwed out of the draft lottery. They're never good enough to compete for a Stanley Cup outside of literally 2011, since in the salary cap era. And they're one of those teams where if they make the playoffs, like you're lucky if they make it to a game 6. It just, whatever they're doing in Vancouver has not worked. My thoughts on Jim Rutherford as a general manager and how I think he is a terrible GM. And now they're in a very tough spot with Pettersson, Hughes, Besser, JT Miller's contract, Ekman Larson's contract. I'm missing somebody so obvious here. Horvat.
Connor Garland.
Connor Garland.
JT Miller.
Yep, mentioned him. I forgot to bring up Vancouver's roster. Here we go. I feel like I'm still missing someone. Did I bring up Elias Pettersson? I probably did. Oh, and Andrei Kuzmenko having a disappointing season. It's just like nothing ever seems to go right for this team.
Ilya Mikheyev's having a nice year.
He is. That's right. I forgot about him.
That's the only shining light, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, every time this team is forced to make a big decision, it somehow is always perceived to get botched. Look at the JT Miller contract. Look at the Ekman Larson trade. I mean, those two contracts will anchor down any team. What would you like to contribute to this conversation, Liam?
Well, the reason why they took on the Ekman Larson contract was that they could get rid of Louis Eriksson, which was equally as bad. So this is a trend in the salary cap era for the Canucks. This is not something that just arose over the last 2 years. They've been doing it for a very long time. And I think when they signed Louis Eriksson, they wanted him to be a winger alongside Henrik and Daniel Sedin on the first line. And he was just a fourth liner. And when they had the chance to move him on to Arizona, where all bad contracts go to die, they get Ekman Larson back. They get Connor Garland back as well. It was a decent trade at the time if the Canucks were ready to compete, and you added 2 overpaid players. I think Garland's a little less overpaid than Ekman Larson is, but nonetheless, 2 overpaid players to a roster that wasn't ready to compete. And then in the offseason, when you had a really bad year last year, you had an opportunity to strike while the iron was hot, move on from JT Miller, get a boatload of assets back, and you sign him 8x8. And he doesn't have a very good subsequent season. and the Canucks are not competing. They're stuck with multiple long-term contracts. They don't have very much of a future. Their star goaltender, Thatcher Demko, looks like a shadow of his old self. The bubble performance where he had a save percentage consistently over 940, that's not the goaltender he is anymore. It's coming to the point where the backup, who's the backup? Is it
Spencer Martin?
Spencer Martin has come up and pretty much taken the starter role. So yeah, it's pretty bad in Vancouver, and they were turning it around, recently. But again, 13 wins in 31 games, minus 19. They're 5-0 in their last 10, so a little bit better, but you can't afford to be middling. Like Nick Kypreos attested them to being throughout the last number of years or so and making the playoffs. So maybe Connor Bedard can save them. Maybe just maybe.
Possibly Nick Kypreos. I can't confirm that off the top of my head.
They could end up with Bedard though. They could.
Yeah, actually, so basically the reason I brought Vancouver up was to bring up this question. Should they try to tank for Connor Bedard and sell everyone off? Because with the state that the team is in, the team is going absolutely nowhere. But then the issue becomes, how far could they realistically tank with how bad the Flyers, the Blue Jackets, the oh my God, the Coyotes, the Sharks, the Ducks, and the Blackhawks are? Like, it's going to be one of those years yet again where they're hoping for just lottery luck that they will not get. So what do you think they should do as soon as you're done coughing?
Excuse me, I had a literal sneezing attack.
Excuse me, sneezing.
As far as the Connor Bedard race, I think Vancouver is definitely in that conversation. Should they tank? I don't really think any NHL team should tank. Oh my God. Hold on. Oh, gotta edit that one out of the cut. Wow, live sneeze.
No, I'm keeping that in. Bless you.
Oh God, I'm a mess. Anaheim has been just absolutely terrible. A 318 winning percentage. I think if that's a team that's going to sell off a lot of assets at the deadline, they signed John Klingberg to a 1-year deal. Move on from him. Get yourself a first-round pick. Send them straight out the door. Strome, send them out the door. Vetrano, send them out the door. Just get as many assets as you possibly can, and try to get the legendary talent that Connor Bedard is probably going to become. But for me, if I were to make a prediction on December 21st as to where Connor Bedard is heading, shades. He's going one place, and we're not going to be surprised when it happens. He is going to be a Chicago Blackhawk, and they're the worst team in the league. They have the worst winning percentage in the league. They are clearly tanking for this player, and just like they needed, what was it, 14 years ago, 15 years ago almost, with Patrick Kane in the 2007 draft, they need somebody to turn them around. And Chicago Blackhawks are absolutely horrendous, and I think they're going to end up with the player, but we'll see. And after they got thrashed 7-1 by the Rangers, it doesn't give me any hope that they're going to improve at all throughout the year.
Yeah, Chicago is just one of those teams. They waited too long to go into full tank mode, and now it's just like they were forced to because they were just that terrible unintentionally. So they put themselves in this position because they didn't do it sooner. You're muted.
I'm muted. When they traded away DeBrincat, they signaled that this was going to be the direction that they were heading in. They had no goaltending. They had traded for Seth Jones the offseason prior and signed him to a horrendous contract, which I still think is going to be the worst contract in the NHL. Just give it a couple seasons. And 7-19-4. I mean, they're just a minus 48 goal differential. Is that the worst goal differential in the league?
No,
it's not. Anaheim, minus 59.
How?
Well, the other team I mentioned was Anaheim, so I'm pretty sure. I'm 95% sure it's either going to be Anaheim or Chicago. It's got to be. It's got to be one of those two. Where do you think Bedard is headed?
It's either those two or Columbus.
Columbus. Yeah, I agree with you.
But
That's
then again, as we see in the draft lottery every year, some team is going to come out of absolute nowhere and just steal this guy.
Nashville.
Imagine. I mean, they're one of those teams that could actually use a player like Bedard. So
Yeah, they need somebody to market. Philadelphia, I would puke. Oh God.
Yeah, they got Nolan. They jumped up 11 spots for Nolan Patrick a couple years back. I don't need them winning any
Did
more
they jump
draft
up
lotteries.
11 spots? I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure it was 11.
Wow. I know they jumped up for him, but
It was
that's
at least 9. It was at least 9.
it's
So
wild.
yeah, no, it's just like we said, the draft lottery is just that's even more of a crapshoot than the actual draft. That that just goes to show you how all over the place the draft lottery is. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, so we basically touched on. Oh, one last thing I wanted to discuss, just pertaining to Canadian teams, the goaltending in particular. I mean, Thatcher Demko and Jack Campbell. What the hell happened?
I mean, Edmonton fans should thank their lucky stars that Stuart Skinner is back there and has been as good as he's been.
Yes.
I mean, and Maple Leafs fans got to be, oh God,
Bless you.
Maple Leafs fans got to be so excited with how Campbell is struggling so much and the bullet that they dodged. Not giving up, north of $6 million for a goaltender that at the end of the day they didn't need. All they needed were two goaltenders the rest of the league had given up on, and yeah, crazy.
Yeah, no, this just goes to show you it's like goaltending in the NHL. Very few of them actually have consistency. I mean, Vasilevsky, Shesterkin,
Sorokin.
Sorokin.
Sorokin's even lost 5 in a row for the first time in his career, but Hellebuck. Um,
Yeah, Hellebuck is usually pretty solid.
Saros.
Now, even he's not having a great season.
He isn't. No, Logan Thompson too. I don't know how LA is second in the Pacific Division and Jonathan Quick. Phoenix Copley's their number one goaltender. And not because of injuries or anything like that, just because of performance.
Yeah, I mean, dude, goaltending is a kind of a crapshoot. But
Yes.
yeah, that's another topic for another day. So let's end this episode on our favorite team, the Rangers. We basically touched upon their 7-game win streak earlier, but let's talk about what led to that 7-game win streak. And I'm not talking about Jacob Trouba. I'm talking about me going to the Rangers Blues game at the Garden 2 weeks ago. First game in 3 seasons that sparked the 7-game winning streak. So I'm taking credit for this. Fuck Jacob Trouba. I'm just kidding.
You deserve to take all the credit for it, Jades. I mean, hey, going to the Garden, that was a tough time to be a fan. They're coming off a really bad loss. What was it to the Devils a couple of nights before? And yeah, then they rattled off 7 in a row. And it's a shame that it ended last night to the Pittsburgh Penguins. But hey, Jacob Trouba throwing his helmet, getting really upset at the Blackhawks, starting that, really starting that. Sorry, Shades. And then, of course, their last victory of that winning streak against the Blackhawks, Jacob Trouba scores, asks Andreas Athanasiou if he wants the puck, which I think was the funniest thing of the season. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that?
Well, it became the second funniest thing of the season after last night.
What do you mean?
Sam Rosen calling Mike Sullivan's mustache terrible on live TV. I was crying.
I didn't see that. I was at work. I was had the volume off. That's funny.
I did not expect that to happen. That was just great.
All right, so second funniest thing of the season.
But hey, I'll be honest with you. Even I had friends over for a belated birthday dinner the night Trouba did that. And even
oh man, happy late birthday. I'm sorry.
Oh, thanks. No, dude, I had to
I'm a terrible friend. I'm terrible with
2 weeks.
birthdays.
Dude,
sorry.
I had to schedule a birthday dinner 2 weeks after my actual birthday because of Full Gear. So
Oh, okay, gotcha.
yeah. So I had people over, I put the Ranger game on, I see Trouba throw the helmet, and even in the moment, I was just like, I was giving him flack, and rightfully so, because I was just like, Trouba, like, you're literally part of the problem these last 10 or so games. Shut up and play.
Yeah.
So, but I will give him credit. The team has played I'm not going to say great, but they've played better. It's like noticeably better. I mean, even the game after against St. Louis, I mean, they still looked like crap.
Yeah, they
So sometimes you just need a couple pucks to bounce your way and you can go on a little bit of a run.
And that's exactly what happened with this team. And I think, it was all concurrent, right, with the power play starting, to get a little bit better, as the winning streak went on. Shesterkin started to play better as well.
Yes.
Your top line forwards. I don't know about you, Shades, but Artemi Panarin looks like a different player. He looks like a legitimate two-way, I'm going to go shoot the puck and I'm going to go back check on the other end type of guy. And that's what you need out of your $11.5 million player.
Yeah, he flipped the switch.
He did. He 100% flipped the switch. And give credit where it's due, Gerard Gallant has figured out the lines. I mean, let me just start with the third line.
Took him long enough.
Yeah. Vincent Trocheck, Chris Kreider, and Jimmy Vesey. That's it. That's it. They found that's the best line on the team, in all three zones. In the offensive zone, we can have a different story. But Jimmy Vesey, he might win the Selke. Look at Jimmy Vesey's defensive metrics, his analytics. He is one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL this season. Vincent Trocheck is one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL. And Chris Kreider, we know what he can do. He's on the number one power PK unit, as well as the number one power play unit alongside Trocheck. So, yeah, that third line is where it starts for me. And that allows you to put the kids on the second line and then put Panarin up with Zibanejad, have your star players playing with your star players.
Yeah, as soon as Kreider scored the first goal of the game last night, I texted my buddy Mike in all caps, keep Kreider away from Zibanejad and good things will happen.
There you go. And that's exactly what's happened for this team. And, I think the defense, look, I'll give credit where it's due again. Ben Harper, I didn't like the call up. Has he been really good? Yeah, he has. He's been solid. He's been exactly what we needed. A big body, puck moving defenseman. Jacob Trouba's picked it up a little bit. Whatever, Adam Fox, sensational as always. Keandre Miller's really turned it up as of late as well. And Braden Schneider. Braden Schneider might be the second best defenseman on this team in just a few years here. So he's really, really good. And the offensive instincts that I've seen out of him to be a second-year defenseman at the age that he is and already have 5 goals in December and play with physicality and take on those minutes, I really like what I've seen out of Braden Schneider a lot.
Yeah, and it helps that we have guys in front of him to shelter him. Like, that's a major component to some guys' development, and we're seeing that right now with him.
And all the while, you have Zach Jones, who is also a defenseman that you're trying to develop in the AHL, playing top-line minutes. Great. If he's not going to be in the NHL and if he's not going to be in the bottom 6, have him gain that experience. That's exactly what's happened. And also Libor Hayek too, man.
Yeah, he's been actually not bad.
He's been good.
Where was this last season, though?
Sometimes it just takes time, and sometimes it takes like 5+ years for defensemen. It's
yeah. But like we said, draft is an educated crapshoot, even though Rangers traded for him and didn't draft him. But I wanted to bring up one point. It was right. Notice how ever since the Rangers traded Buchnevich, Kreider just looks absolutely lost every shift he plays with Zibanejad.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that was.
And that's why it's so critical, Shades, that he's playing with Trocheck and Vesey.
Mm-hmm.
He found his spot because,
like I said, Yep. I was saying this last night, and well, I mean, technically, I got the text. He's from my buddy Mike. He said Kreider's not a first-line winger. Sorry. And I'm just like, you don't have to apologize. He's much more effective on the third line. That's where he should be playing on this team. Yep.
And it stinks that Trocheck is a $5.5 or $5.75 million third liner. Oh my God, please edit him out, please. He's a $5.75 million third liner, but
I am so sorry I'm laughing at your misery right now.
It's okay. I'm trying so hard here. I need a tissue so bad. I've needed one the whole episode. But yeah. No, I really like the way the lines are finally forming, and just keeping Lafreniere, Hedl, and Kakko together is everything.
Yes, it is. Bless you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Us
and
Paco and Filipino.
yeah, and they honestly, dude, I really want Kravtsov to be getting top line minutes on the sole basis of
Panarin.
it's just like that that's where one, Panarin, two, Zibanejad, and three, like he's toiling away on the fourth line. And if you put him with Brodzinski and Blay, that's not going to do anything for a young player's development. It really isn't. I'm sorry.
I agree with you, but I just don't know if you can trust him on the defensive end matching up against other first time players. I just don't
True.
know if he has enough NHL experience.
That's a
Is he on the first line here today
for
with Kreider? I mean
like
with Panarin
three
and
shifts.
yeah. Well, Crosby matches up against Kravtsov, he's gonna have a field day. So
Yeah. Well, I look at it this way. You have two guys who can play defense in Panarin and Zibanejad. Sometimes you have to put a quote unquote struggling defensive player with two guys who can play defense to put them in position to learn from them. I mean, sitting on the bench and watching it only does so much.
you're right. You're right. I'm with you. I am. And just at the trade deadline, I think this opens up. I mean, I know Patrick Kane, it's been an overdone conversation. But if the Rangers keep the lines that they have and they move a Kravtsov and the Zach Jones in a deal for Kane, just throwing it out there, and you can have Kane, Panarin, and Zibanejad as your first line, roll the kids in the second line, that shut down third line, and then a fourth line. I don't know, man. That's and a top four D man too. And it doesn't even have to be Kane. What if it's Vladimir Tarasenko from the Blues? It could be anybody. So I think that's where they should head. But they shouldn't trade Kako. They should try to trade Kravtsov first because I really like what I've seen out of Kako. I don't know about you.
And Kako's actually he's been playing all right this season. I like how he's been playing. Just like I said though, like the only thing bad that I have to say about Kravtsov is he he plays noticeably worse when he is away from Lafreniere and Hedel. And guys like that can be somewhat of a problem because he's kind of shown when he plays with Panarin or when he plays with Zibanejad, it's just like I just feel like he doesn't play as good.
You talking about Kako?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I hear you. Whenever I only see production out of Kako when he's with Lafreniere and Hedel. If he's with Zibanejad, if he's with Trocheck, there's just not, you know. I guess because all three are young players and are all trying to learn the NHL game and are all trying to get the fundamentals down. Like if you ever see Capo Caco, Lafreniere, and Hedel in the offensive zone, it's never like I'm gonna play with the puck, I'm gonna do these dirty dangles like Panarin and Fox and Zibanejad type to tend to do. It's let's work the puck along the wall, let's win puck battles, let's work the way puck up to the point, let's get in front of the net and get deflections. And that's exactly what they do. And they're really good at it. And they're learning the fundamentals. When you put Kako with Zibanejad and Panarin, two very skilled guys, and Kako is not even getting his feet wet with being comfortable in the ozone, is it going to really work out?
Mm.
And that's why I think it hasn't. So as weird as that sounds, putting Kako with younger players as opposed to more skilled players is the move.
Yeah,
It
this
is.
could turn out to be a problem come the off season because I mean, we've seen how the team has played so far this season. Hedel, Lafreniere, and Kako. That needs to be the second line. It needs to be.
It has to be. It has to be. No other choice.
No,
I
100%.
1000% agree.
100%
Because
has
now
to
you
be.
have a third line. You have a third
Exactly.
line.
We haven't had a third line like this since
Pouliot,
Brassard,
Broussard.
Zuccarello, Pouliot,
There you go.
which is my
Yeah.
all-time favorite third line, by the way.
It was so
And
good.
now, granted, I will still give the edge to that line, but this is by far the best third line that we've had since then.
Yeah. And it's all three zones, Shades. That's what
Yep.
really gets me. Trocheck is a pest on the forecheck. So is Kreider.
Yeah.
One more. All right.
Bless you.
One more. All right.
Oh, Jesus.
But yeah, no, I love it. And going back to Kako, real quick, I'll make one last point here. And I'm gonna duck after I say this.
Oh boy.
But I was saying about how Kako tends to play in the offensive zone and how he tends to work the boards, move the puck back up to the point, kind of not do those skillful plays. That's why I thought at the time when Gerard Gallant put Kako on the fourth line in game 6 alongside who was it? Alongside Dryden Hunt and Kevin Rooney. I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world because those are two players who tend to play like that. Should they have been Lafreniere? Should Kako have been with Lafreniere and Hedel? Yeah, of course. You shouldn't switch up your lines just because you're in an elimination game. Go with the game. Go with the lines that have gotten you to that point.
Yeah.
I didn't hate Kako being on the fourth line at the time.
Well, I mean, we beat
mentality.
Pittsburgh, so
you
then
know
again,
what? We beat Pittsburgh, exactly.
Yeah, then again, Pittsburgh kind of like self-imploded, but I'll take it.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how you win.
I'll take it.
That you win. Yeah.
Yeah. The only problem with I do not envy Chris Drury's position that he's going to be in this offseason because Hedel, Hedel, Lafreniere, and Miller, all RFAs. Hedel's already on the end of a bridge deal. He's going to want, you're going to have to pay up the slightest bit for him.
5.
I would not hate it with the way he's played this season. Miller, dude, call me crazy, but Miller deserves every bit of $6 million. Call me crazy.
He's on a long-term deal, yes. But I think he might get a bridge.
We'll see. Like I said,
I would sign him.
Position.
I would sign him 6x6.
Oh, absolutely. In my personal opinion, he is the best actual defenseman on the team.
I would say Lindgren, but yeah.
True. Okay. No, you have that's a valid argument.
But I think he's better defensive defenseman than Fox is. I'll give you that.
And especially Trouba.
And I think fucking Hayek is better than Trouba, but that's again.
Yeah. Anyway, this is a discussion worth going more in depth in the off season. But yeah. I mean, I got nothing else. You got anything?
I think we pretty much went over it all.
Yeah.
I don't think we left any stone unturned. And also Jason Robertson is the man. Just want to put that out there.
I had a chance to keep him in my fantasy hockey league from last season. Bless you again. And for some stupid ass reason, I chose not to. And now my fantasy team is on the verge of losing 6 weeks in a row.
6 in a row.
6 weeks in a row. If I had him, I literally might be 9-0 right now. But instead, I'm 4-5.
Who'd you trade him for?
I didn't trade him for anything. I kept Jeannot over him because I thought he was going to build on his rookie season, and which he sucks. Sophomore slump.
Man, I don't know. I don't know.
Very bad. I kept Norris, Stutzla, and Jeannot. And Norris has played 5 games this season. And Jeannot is just having a crap season.
Yeah.
I got to make trades. So, well, yeah, I'll you will get updates on my fantasy team as we get closer to the trade deadline.
Please do.
Yeah, and
I'm excited.
Hopefully we'll have Woj back soon. I don't know what's up with him. Last time I checked, his laptop basically like exploded. So we'll see what I gotta get in contact with him. Yeah, so this has been Pucks and Brews, episode 28. Liam, thank you so much again for coming on. Before I forget, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Unless we record next week, then I'll say Happy New Year again.
Yeah, right on. Back to you as well. Thank you for having me.
Merry Christmas to you, to everyone listening, and Uh, yeah, go Rangers, I guess. Keep it up, and don't blow any games like last night, please.
Please.
Please. We beg of you. That was
Are you wearing the Liberty right now?
Yep, actually this is the first Rangers shirt I ever had. So
Nice.
yeah.
I got one too.
Take a guess on which player.
Oof. So this is from the first stint when they wore the jersey, right?
Yes.
Did Hank didn't wear the Liberty? Yager,
Nope.
Messier,
Nope.
Gretzky,
Nope.
Lindros,
Salary cap era.
salary cap era. That wore the Liberty, but it's the first Rangers shirt you owned. He's not still on the team, is he?
He is not still on the team.
Can you give me one more hint? What do you got?
Okay, let me without totally giving it away.
Because I want to guess it.
He debuted after the lockout.
But I already said Hank. So it's not Hank. I already said Lundqvist. I already said
No. You said it might.
We gotta go. We gotta roll back the tape. We gotta roll back the tape.
No, because you said you didn't technically guess Lundqvist. You went like, is it Lundqvist? Or no, you were just like, no, it can't be Lundqvist. Is it Yager? That's basically what you said. And I kept my mouth shut like a dick.
You are a dick for that. I got it right. And to be fair, Lundqvist was my first guess. So right on. You're gonna make me go all the way back to fucking Kovalev and all these guys.
Oh man. Anyway, this has been Pucks and Brews, and Merry Christmas. Happy New Year if we don't record, but I want to. And Shesterkin for Vesna, part 2.
And also Fox for Norris, part 2. He's been good.
I like it.
He's been good.
And that's how I'm
McCarr's having a tough year. McCarr's having a tough year, man.
Yeah, he is. And that's how I'm gonna end it. 2 major award winners for the Rangers. Let's do it, boys.